Okay, so Rashid and Haroon and the big Mr. Butt, the bus driver, are um, leaving on the mail coach for the Valley of Kay. And I will continue. Faster and faster went the mail coach. The passengers started to hoot and howl with excitement and fear. Through village after village Mr. Butt drove, at top speed. Haroun observed that in each village a man carrying a large mail bag would be waiting by the bus stop in the village square, and that this man would look at first confused and then furious as the mail coach roared by him, without even slowing down. Haroun could see that at the rear of the mail coach there was a special area separated from the passengers by a wire mesh partition, a fence, that was piled high with mail bags just like that held by the angry, fist-shaking men in the village squares. Mr. Butt had apparently forgotten to deliver or collect the mail. That's odd, isn't it? Don't we need to stop for the letters? Haroun finally leaned forward to inquire. At the same moment, Rashid Astoria cried out, "Do we need to go so blinking fast?" Mr. Butt managed to make the mail coach go even faster. "Need to stop?" he bellowed over his shoulder. "Need to go so quickly? Well, my sirs, I'll tell you this. Needs a slippery snake. That's what it is. This boy here says that you This boy here says that you, sir, need a view before sunset. And maybe it's so, and maybe no." He rhymes again. "But some might say that the boy here needs a mother. And maybe it's so, and maybe no. And it's been said to me that Butt needs speed. But, it may be that my heart truly needs a different kind of thrill. Oh, needs a funny fish. It makes people untruthful. They all suffer from it, but they will not admit. They all suffer from it, but they will not always admit. Hurrah," he added, pointing. "The snow line, icy patches ahead, crumbling road surface, hairpin bends." Hairpin bends means a bend very sharp. "Danger of avalanches, full speed ahead." Nothing scares this Mr. Butt, does it? He seems to know a lot about Haroun, too, that he needs a mother. Sort of interesting, isn't it? A little odd, this bus driver. He had promised not to stop for the mail in order to keep his promise to Haroun. "No problem," he shouted gaily. "Everybody gets other people's correspondence anyhow in this country of so many, too many places, and so few, too few names." The mail coach rushed up into the mountains of M, swinging around terrifying curves with a great squealing of tires. The luggage, which was all tied down on the roof rack on top of the bus, began to shift about in a worrying way. The passengers, who all looked alike, now that their perspiration had finished turning the dust that covered them to mud. That's like when we go in the pond and we take the clay and we cover our faces with clay, and we all look a little bit alike because we're all brown. They began to complain. "My hold all!" yelled a mud woman. "Crazy buffalo! Looney Tune! Desist from your speeding, or my possessions will be thrown to Kingdom Come." Kingdom Come is a phrase that people use meaning off somewhere in the great sky. "It is we ourselves who will be thrown, madam," a mudman answered sharply. "So less noise about your personal items, please." He was interrupted angrily by a second mudman. "Have a care! It is my good wife you are insulting." Then a second mudwoman joined in. "So what? For so long she has been shouting in my husband's good ear. Why should he not lodge a complaint?" See her, the dirty skinny bones? Is she a woman or a muddy stick? People are getting nasty. See here, this bend, what a tight one, Mr. Butt sang out. Here, 2 weeks ago, occurred a major disaster. Bus plunged into gully, all persons killed, 67 lives minimum. God, too sad. If you desire, I can stop for taking photographs. This guy is a lunatic, Mr. Butt. Yes, stop, stop, the passenger begged. Anything to make him slow down. But Mr. Butt went even faster instead. Too late, he yodeled. Yodeled. Too late, he yodeled gaily. Already it is far behind. Requests must be more promptly made if I am to comply. I did it again, Haroun was thinking. If we crash now, if we're smashed to bits, or fried like potato chips in a burning wreck, it will be my fault. This time, too. Now they were high in the mountains of M, and Haroun felt sure that the mail coach was speeding up as they got higher. They were so high that there were clouds in the gorges below them, and the mountainside was covered in thick, dirty snow, and the passengers were shivering with cold. The only sound to be heard in the mail coach was the chattering of teeth. Everyone had fallen into a scared and frozen silence, while Mr. Butt was concentrating so hard on the high-speed driving that he even had stopped yelling Yahoo and pointing out the sights of particularly gruesome, that means horrible, accidents. Haroun had the feeling that they were floating on a sea of silence, that a wave of silence was lifting them up, 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 toward the mountain tops. His mouth was dry, and his tongue felt stiff and caked. Rashid couldn't make out a sound either, not even "ugh." Any moment now, he couldn't make a sound. Rashid couldn't even make a sound either, not even "ugh." Any moment now, Haroun was thinking, and he knew that something very similar must be in the mind of the other passengers. I am going to wipe out like a word on a blackboard. One swoosh of the duster, and I'll be gone for good. Then he saw the cloud. The mail coach was streaking along the side of a narrow ravine. That's like a gorge, but more narrow. Up ahead, the road swung so sharply to the right that it seemed they must plunge over the edge. Roadside notices warned of the extra danger, in words so severe that they no longer rhymed. Drive like hell, and you will get there, was one. And also, be slow or be dead. The phone's ringing, but I don't want to stop because I'm reading a story. Just then a thick cloud shot through with impossible shifting colors, a cloud from a dream or a nightmare, hopped up from behind the gorge below them and plopped itself down on the road. They hit it just as they went around a bend, and in the sudden darkness, Haroun heard Butt slamming on the brakes as hard as he could. Noise returned, screams, the skidding of tires. This is it, Haroun thought, and then they were out of the cloud, in a place with smooth walls curving up around them, and rows of yellow lights set in the ceiling above. Tunnel, Mr. Butt announced. At the far end, Valley of K. Hours to sunset, 1. Time in tunnel, some minutes only. One view coming up. Like I said, no problem. They came out of the tunnel of I, also called J, and Mr. Butt stopped the mail coach, so everyone could enjoy the sight of the sun setting over the valley of Kay, with its fields of gold, which really grew saffron. Saffron is a spice that is orange, and that's why the fields are gold. We have some at home. Grandma uses it. And its silver mountains, which were really covered in glistening, pure, white snow. And its dull lake, which didn't look dull at all. I'm not going to call it the boring lake. That's funnier. Rashid Khalifa hugged Harun and said, "Thanks for fixing this up, son. But I admit that for some time I thought we were all fixed good and proper. I mean, done for. Finito. That means end in Italian. Chatam shud, which I means end, I guess, in whatever language they speak. Chatam shud, frowned Baruch. Chatam shud, Harun frowned. What was that story you used to tell? Rashid spoke as if he were remembering an old dream. Chatum should, he said slowly, is the arch enemy of all stories, even of language itself. He is the prince of silence, and the foe, that means the enemy, of speech. And because everything ends, because dreams end, stories end, life ends, at the finish of everything, we use his name. It's finished, we tell each other. It's over. Chatum should. The end. This place is already doing you good, Harun noted. No more ark. Your crazy stories are starting to come back. On the way down into the valley, Mr. Butt drove slowly and with extreme caution and carefulness. But, there is no need for speed now that my service has been performed. He explained to the quivering mudmen and mudwomen, who all then glared, that means stared and looked angrily, at Harun and Rashid, because they blamed them for the speed. As the light failed, they passed a sign that had originally read, "Welcome to K," but somebody had dubbed it with crude, irregular letters, so it now said, "Welcome to Kashmar." What is Kashmar? Harun wanted to know. It is the work of some miscreant. A miscreant is a sort of a horrible person, a person that shouldn't be, shrugged Mr. Butt. Not every person in the valley is happy, as you may find. It is a word from the ancient tongue of Franj, which is no longer spoken in these parts, Rashid explained. In those long-gone days, the valley, which is now simply K, had other names. One, if I remember correctly, was Kashmir. Another was Kashmar. All names mean something. Do these names mean anything? Harun asked. All names mean something, Rashid replied. Let me think. Yes, that was it. Kashmir can be translated as the place that hides a sea, an ocean. But Kashmar is a ruder name. Come on, urged Harun. You can't stop there. In the old tongue, Rashid admitted, it was the word for nightmare. Okay, I think I'll end this one here, and we will continue in the next chapter. I'm rather enjoying this, and I hope you are too. Bye-bye. See you soon. Lots of love. Grandma and Grandpa. And here we go. Off.